Welcome to the show, guys. I've got 4 fantasy football late round gems for you guys to target. You can call them fantasy football sleepers. You can call them fantasy football late round gold. You can call them whatever you want. But I think these particular 4 players at a mixed variety range of positions are great value for fantasy football 2022. Call them sleepers, whatever. But I think that if you target these guys, you get a good return on investment. One of them could boom. The other ones will be safe and solid throughout the entire fantasy football 2022 season. And you don't got to pay nothing for them. So I got 4 gems here for you today. Now, before we get into this, guys, if you are new to the channel, if you're not subscribed, subscribe. This advice is outside of the box thinking. This is not your general consensus advice. This is the most entertaining, fun, and practical show with the line mentality. We're going to help you guys crush your leagues. This is not about, following the herd. So if you are new to the channel, if you got that line mentality, if you actually want to win your league, click the subscribe button. Secondly, guys, get the 16-round drafts, which I've linked it below. What is it, guys? The first ever and only video training course. I give you all the optimal players drafted each round. It's like having me at the draft with you. All the notes are there updated until the season starts, up until the day the season starts. And the first release of this is a week after the NFL draft in 2022. And we update it for you guys, but you can pre-order right now, right here below, or Google 16-round draft solution, or head on over to thefantasyfootballaccounts.com. All right, subscribe, thumbs up, and get 16 rounds. All right, let's dive into this. First gem I want to talk about here, and for me, this is a guy that I was telling you to stash in 16 rounds. This is where 16 rounds differs from the mainstream consensus rankings. This is a prime example. Last year, Amon-Ra St. Brown was ranked approximately 70th on the consensus rankings, on the mainstream networks, on all the outdated magazines, on all the sites, and all the podcasts. He wasn't even suggested as a person you draft. But in 16 rounds, I told you to get him, right? I told you to get him in and around round 9, 10, because he was the wide receiver 1 on the roster. Very simple, guys. It wasn't brain surgery here. I mean, if you looked at the Detroit Lions last year, they had no offensive weapons. He was the guy. And I told you, young guy coming out. He was a round 4 pick. I mean, it wasn't over the top exciting. He wasn't like a first rounder, but he was a guy that looked promising. He had that talent. I'm like, you know what? Make sure you at least stash him on your rosters, okay? 119 targets, 90 receptions, not bad. 5 receiving touchdowns, and proved to be the #1 target getter on the Detroit Lions. Now, you were saying, well, Joe, Hawkinson's going to come back. They added DJ Chark there. Swift is going to get in the mix again. We're going to have to see what they do after the NFL draft. Are they going to draft another wide receiver? What are they going to do? I would think if they improve their O-line, they make some offensive, defensive, fixes on that offense. I'm not sure exactly what they're going to do. We're going to have to see in the draft. But either way, I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to get the volume. I think he's going to get the targets. I think he only gets better this year. And here's the cool thing about him. Currently sitting 27th on the consensus rankings for a guy that is the wide receiver 1, theoretically. Now, again, Cephas is there, Hawkinson, Chark, but I believe Amon-Ra has solidified his role. Now, last year he finished 21st amongst wide receivers. I think he only gets better. But either way, you're getting this guy for absolutely free. 27th on the consensus rankings. This guy's after the 6th, 7th, 8th round. Like, he is a steal, right? You're literally stealing him. He could be a gem, and he's a wide receiver 1. And this is why I tell everybody, do not invest early on wide receivers, because you're going to get a ton of wide receiver 1s later. We saw that last year. I drafted Jamar Chase later. He was ranked like 30th or 40th on the consensus rankings. Look where he finished, right? Deebo Samuel was drafted, recommended to be drafted after Brandon Ayuk. I told you, Debo's the guy. Deebo crushed it, right? There's a ton of examples where there's a ton of depth last year, guys, at the wide receiver position, and the mainstream told you guys to draft these guys early. You don't have to. So Amon-Ra St. Brown, a huge gem later at the wide receiver position. I'll throw in another wide receiver here for you. Now, I'm not over the top excited ceiling-wise about this guy, but I like him as a player. The guy I'm talking about here is Darnell Mooney. Why do I like Darnell Mooney? Well, the thing is, he's going into his 3rd season. So he's primed. He's ready to go. Coming off an awesome season last year, 140 targets, 81 receptions, over 1,000 yards receiving in only his 2nd year, 1,055. Now, only 4 touchdowns. So that tells me 2 things. Number 1, is he that good? He didn't get that many touchdowns. Joe, he's not that good. Okay. But it also tells me that there's a ceiling there, that he hasn't peaked, right? There's more there to be had. His rapport only gets better with Fields this year. New coaching, new offense, and as of the time of this recording, he is the wide receiver 1. Now, whether the Bears draft a wide receiver or bring one in, by the time you listen to this or before the season, that's very viable. They do need a wide receiver. They've got no one else there. They've got Pringle. They've got Mooney. They need offensive weapons. They're most likely going to bring in a receiver in the NFL draft. Now, Darnell Mooney actually finished 23rd amongst wide receivers last year, game-by-game basis, very consistent, currently sitting 31st on the consensus rankings, so he's going to be really good value. And again, theoretically, you're probably getting a wide receiver 1 here for an absolute steal, right? I don't think I'd do this. I'd probably want to get a better wide receiver, a better known name, a guy that's more consistent, but theoretically, you can wait till the later rounds and get Mooney and Amon St. Brown. You've got theoretically 2 wide receiver 1s. Would you do that? Not necessarily, but it's viable. You load up on your ace quarterbacks, your ace running backs, maybe get an ace tight end early, and you have these as your wide receivers. Do I recommend it? No, I don't recommend Amon-Ra or Mooney to be your wide receiver 1. Hopefully you can get a better one earlier on, but what I'm saying is that you could theoretically run with this and add more depth at wide receiver, right? And wide receiver 1s we're talking about at the time of this recording. So, over the top ceiling, no, but amazing value and could be a wide receiver 1 on his team. That's a steal, sitting 31st on the consensus rankings right now. Darnell Mooney could be a hidden gem, a fantasy football wide receiver sleeper that I absolutely love, okay? That's why you guys got to click subscribe and get the 16-round draft solution, because I'm going to give you guys all my sleepers, all my breakouts in 16 rounds, and there's going to be a ton more videos coming out here in regards to more gem sleepers, breakouts, busts, rankings, all that fun stuff. So I'm going to keep you guys in the loop and outside the box sticker. So I'm not just going to tell you, hey guys, draft Cooper Kupp in the first round because he finished on top last year. That's not how I roll. And he will be due for a decline, just like Michael Thomas was in 2019. He had that big year. 2020, he busted. And everybody told you draft Michael Thomas round 1. I'm like, nope, avoid him. Sure enough, he busted, right? No one to hold him, no one to fold him, right? Coming in number 3 as a late round gem here. Now, again, another guy that probably doesn't have a huge ceiling, probably coming off the career year for him. Finished 22nd last year. Where did he finish here? Actually, no, he didn't finish 22nd. He finished a lot higher than that. Let me pull this up here at the running back. The guy I'm talking about is Cornell Patterson. I apologize. Finished 9th amongst running backs. Currently sitting 36th, guys. Okay, 36th amongst running backs right now. It's Cornell Patterson. The only guy they brought in is Damian Williams there. They've got Mike Davis there. Again, the offense is suspect. They got Mariota potentially starting at the quarterback position, but Patterson proved that he could be a dual threat last year and could be an offensive weapon. We know Calvin Ridley is not playing this year. Kyle Pitts is going to be there. Hopefully he takes a step up. Very expensive at the tight end position. But if you want a value Swiss Army knife type player, a guy that proved himself last year, that can get it done on the ground, they can get it done in the receiving game, a guy that you could flex certain weeks, that could have big weeks, is Cornell Patterson. Now, again, amazing value here on the rankings. He's literally going to probably go super, super late, maybe even undrafted. Who knows? Again, finishing 9th. So I'm surprised in this case that the consensus did not copy and paste him. They typically do. But Cornell Patterson, 153 rushing attempts. Not a lot, right? What do you have in regards? 618 yards, 4 rushing touchdowns, but 548 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns and 53 receptions. So, again, very versatile, very dynamic, gets it done receiving. Again, he came into the league with the Vikings as a wide receiver, literally did nothing his entire career, had this little mini breakout year last year in 2021. Obviously, Matt Ryan's gone, but the thing is, he's value. You can stash him on your bench, and this is a guy that you can plug in, add depth to your roster, add depth to your running backs, and really, really could be a factor in particular weeks. If the matchup is good, you start seeing if he starts rolling. You start seeing if he's got momentum. Is he connecting? Is he getting receptions? Has he picked up? Then you can, has he picked up steam, right? And then you could probably plug him in. But he could be a hidden gem, and that's what I'm telling you guys, okay? He's an absolute steal gem and a running back sleeper. I like Cornell Patterson as a later round stash. All right, quarterback here. This is not the most attractive pick, but it could be a very efficient and smart pick as a backup quarterback with massive upside. I always tell you guys to back up your quarterbacks every single year. If you're in a 1 quarterback league, you get 2 quarterbacks. If you're in a 2 quarterback league, you get 3 quarterbacks. Always have a backup plan for a backup plan. And the guy I'm talking about is Matt Ryan, finishing 19th last year amongst quarterbacks. Very down year for Matt Ryan. Not your typical year for Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan is a guy that throws a whole lot. Okay, and he has his entire career. So you're always looking at a guy that's going to throw over 4,000 yards. Last year he threw just under that with 3,968, but he had a lot of pressure. That O-line was terrible. The Falcons looked terrible. The coaching wasn't good. They couldn't get it going. Their receivers are, gone. Like, he didn't have any receivers, right? So 20 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Matt Ryan, you're gonna see it in the draft. They're going to pair him up with an ace wide receiver. I'm looking for the Colts to draft the best possible wide receiver in the NFL draft. If not, somehow acquire one. Michael Pittman is really good. Is he the solution? I'm not sure. I think he's going to be good. I think the connection is going to be there. But Matt Ryan needs another weapon to add to his arsenal. He's a pocket passer. He throws a lot. He backs up. He's not a big rusher. He's not a running quarterback. He's not. He needs time to throw the ball. He didn't have that in Atlanta. He's going to have that with the Colts. I still think he's a good quarterback. I still think he's a viable quarterback. I think he's a relatively efficient quarterback, not only in fantasy, but in reality. I like him on the Colts. He's got 1 to 2 years with the Colts, almost guaranteed, barring any type of injury. He should be there. Matt Ryan is a guy that I think is going to be an absolute steal. Again, currently sitting 22nd amongst quarterbacks on the consensus rankings. This guy could finish top 5, top 10 amongst quarterbacks in fantasy points, and you will get him as an absolute steal. He is a quarterback sleeper. He's a quarterback gem. He is a quarterback gold. Am I saying start him off the bat? Probably not, because you can get a more upside type quarterback earlier on in the draft, but you can literally back yourself up with Matt Ryan and you can plug him in. And why do I always suggest you get a backup quarterback? Many reasons. Number one, lack of efficiency of your starting quarterback. Let's say your starting quarterback just isn't having a good year, so lack of efficiency, right? Another one is to cover your bye weeks. You need an ace quarterback to cover that bye week. You never want to underestimate that bye week and start a slug at your quarterback position, right? You want a good quarterback on your bench ready to go to cover that. And of course, covering the injuries. You always want to cover injuries and have an ace quarterback to cover that, not just a slug or a guy that's a second stringer or a has-been or a maybe. You want a guy that's going to be efficient starter as your backup quarterback, okay? So Matt Ryan, a hidden gem. So there you have it, guys. 4 hidden gems, 4 sleepers, whatever you want to call them. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Darnell Mooney, Cornell Patterson, and Matt Ryan. Are they the most exciting players? No. But they can be relatively efficient. They can be solid flex starters, and they have some ceiling to them. All right, guys? 4 gems for you guys. Think outside the box when you're drafting and get that 60-round draft solution. If you are new to the channel, make sure you guys click subscribe and follow the #1 Instagram podcast here and on Instagram at Fantasy Football Accounts. So follow the #1 verified Instagram page, all right? I'm out, guys. Subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon. We'll talk soon.